Morning. Episode number, I don't know, I'm not really keeping track of that. But just out for another morning walk. Brought my main man, Timothy, with me again.
Hi.
And, just having some father-son time. Taking this little walk, enjoying nature. We got to just stop and kind of see a doe that was in the trees, eating and checking us out. It's always nice to take in nature like that. But, we were talking this morning, and first we started talking about the cosmos and the crazy sci-fi-ness that we live in. But, I believe in sort of being honest with yourself and being honest with your kids and being open with your kids. And, so one of the things I was telling my son is that I had a conversation yesterday with a friend. And, I spend a lot of time coaching other people, and I spend a lot of time trying to improve myself. But it's less often these days that I have somebody to sit down and kind of be in my face and challenge me on, like, okay, where are you really, like, what are some areas you really need to improve on, So I really thought about that yesterday, and I sat down, with my friend. I said, okay, well, typically business has been something that was always a little out of balance, or, I was good at the application side, but not the business side. However, in the last, few years, I've actually attacked that area of life and education, and I feel like I'm on the right track with business right now. Not exactly where I want to be, but I'm on the right path. So I don't feel like that's lacking so much. Finances, relationship with my wife, my happiness and my passion. I feel like all of that stuff is operating at a very high level. And I'm not saying that to be like, ooh, look at me, I'm amazing. I'm saying that because there's always something that can be improved, always, if you look, right? And so having this talk, what I realized was probably the most frustrating thing in my life, and the thing that I really feel like I've been shying away from improving, is my relationship with my daughter. My daughter's a 17-year-old teenager. I'm sure there's a lot of people that just nod their heads and be like, oh, 17-year-old daughter. But to me, that's not really an excuse, right? And we have a good relationship. We don't not talk to each other and not hang out. And we actually do get to spend a lot of good quality time together. But there's also a lot of times that are very frustrating. And so my daughter is very different than where I'm at now, but she's very similar to where I was at when I was her age, except she's not causing near the amount of trouble that I was. But she's kind of got that attitude of, I'm going to do things my way, and the only way I'm going to learn something is to do it myself. And so it's kind of everything I try to do to educate her on maybe some of the mistakes that she's making or could be making. It always seems to fall on deaf ears, and she shuts off and doesn't want to have those conversations. And my wife and I are both achievers. And so, seeing my daughter not want to push herself is a very frustrating thing for me. But it's frustrating for me not because of her. It's frustrating for me because I allow it to be frustrating. And, I go back and forth where I understand that, as parents, or for any of our loved ones that we're, trying to help out, we want them to have good lives, right? We want them to be safe. We want them to be cared for. We want them to be loved. And so, on one hand, I want to take some of the experiences I've learned from and share it with my kids to try and save them from going through some of the pain and causing some of the pain that I did growing up. But on the other hand, I realize that the point that I'm at in my life, I'm at that point because of those experiences and because of those things that I've had to grow and learn from. So it's a weird balance of trying to find, how do you guide your children, but at the same time give them enough room to have those experiences themselves within limits, right? I definitely don't want my daughter to recreate what I did when I was younger. But aside from that, I had to be very honest with myself and think about why I get uncomfortable in some of the situations talking with my daughter, or why I get frustrated, or why I feel like I'm trying to push her so much to get through some of her times of laziness, or, seeming like she doesn't really want to look down the road. She just wants to kind of enjoy the day, right? Which a lot of kids do that. I mean, a lot of people still do that. But what I realized for me is that I don't want my frustrations trigger uncomfortable feelings in me because it makes me reconnect with some of the fear that I went through when I was her age. And that was a sort of a big realization I had yesterday, was that when I shy away from conversations with my daughter sometimes, where when we have those periods where, you know, we'll go through 2 or 3 days where we're not talking to each other as much because maybe she's done something that I don't approve of, or I feel like she should be improving and she kind of shuts down. And I kind of shy away from having those conversations with her because it triggers that fear in me of her repeating the things that I went through. So it's not actually like my fear of her going through it that's causing me to act like that. It's my fear of allowing my mind is going back and reliving those feelings, like those feelings of falling short, or those feelings of making the wrong decisions, or those feelings of causing pain in other people's lives. And it's something that I've worked so hard to move away from, that when I get into those conversations or those situations with my daughter, it triggers the connection with those feelings. And for me, it was kind of a big point to come to, because it immediately allowed me to sort of release some of that anxiety that I don't feel in hardly any other situation in my day-to-day life. So I realized what I have to do is I have to start sort of taking responsibility for myself in those situations and changing my approach and changing sort of my emotional connection to those. So rather than letting that fear creep in when I sit and I talk to my wife, or my daughter, is changing it up more for like trying to come from a place of love, trying to come from a place of compassion and pride and happiness. Because if I change up my mindset and the emotions I attach to those situations, I myself will react differently. And maybe my reacting differently is going to create better interactions with my daughter, right? And even if she still feels like she wants to go on her own, I can release those frustrations and have more of that like love and care of like, okay, here, I'm here to support you, which I am here to support her, but that doesn't mean my subconscious doesn't still creep in. And so being able to recognize sort of like what my subconscious was doing and the position that I was putting myself in was awesome. You know, so again, kind of this whole talk was about being honest with yourself and really sitting down and looking at yourself and not being afraid to say like, you know, where am I lacking? Like, and what is it that's causing me to fall short in certain situations or to not react the right way in certain situations? And I think especially as a person who coaches other individuals on how to, you know, improve their health, improve their fitness, improve their lives, I think it's even more important for me to do the same stuff in my life. And so I was very grateful for the situation yesterday, and it was tough for a little while to go through and kind of emotional little roller coaster, but you know, those are the things that we need to face to really improve. You know, and so I woke up this morning like excited to sort of, you know, not excited for my daughter to create an action that causes that type of conversation, but like excited to be able to interact with her in a different and sort of more recharged way, which, you know, that's part of evolution, right? Like parents, we don't get a guidebook, and we're learning just like our kids are. Like we're trying to teach our kids how to live life, and our kids are trying to teach us how to be parents. So don't lose sight of that. You know, if you're a parent or a grandparent, like we never stop learning, and our kids, like my kids, this one right here teaches me all kinds of stuff. You know, they're some of our biggest educators. You just have to pay attention to the lessons. You can't fall into the old cultural illusion of like, well, respect your elders because we know more than you, because that's bullshit. right? And we might know more and we have more experiences, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot that we can't learn from our children and our grandchildren and, you know, just young people in general. So, you know, maybe that triggered a little insightful thought for some of you. It doesn't even necessarily have to be, you know, a similar situation with children, but any situation that you feel you're uncomfortable in, like, really start to ask yourself those questions, like, why am I uncomfortable? Like, what is it triggering? What am I feeling when I'm in those situations? And how can I sort of reframe my mindset to get a more positive environment when those situations come up? So have a wonderful day. We're going to keep enjoying this nice kind of humid morning here in Maryland. And so signing off. Bye.